let's dive into another deep dive. Today we're going high up to the Himalayas.
Oh,
Not for a trek this time, though. We're looking at the potential impact of Indian Railways on Himachal Pradesh.
fascinating.
Yeah, a beautiful state. We've got all sorts of reports and analyses, all looking at this ambitious plan to bring rail lines through some seriously challenging terrain.
It's an incredible idea, really.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, this project could totally change a region
Right.
that is both geographically isolated and just like full of untapped potential.
Yeah, it really is this clash of ancient mountains and modern engineering. It's fascinating. But first,
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about Indian Railways in general.
Of course.
It's massive, one of the biggest networks on the planet, 67,000 kilometers of track.
67,000. You know what that's like? That's like laying tracks from New York to LA and back, and then doing it again. And even that's not all. It's not just the distance. Indian Railways employs over 1.4 million people.
Wow.
One of the biggest employers in the world. It's like the backbone of India's economy, moving millions of passengers,
Yeah.
billions of tons of freight every year.
I knew it was big, but I never really
Yeah.
wrapped my head around the sheer scale of it. And it's not just practical, right? There's also this sense of history
Absolutely.
and even romance to it.
There really is.
Yeah.
You've got those iconic routes. The Kalka-Shimla line, for example, it's a
Yeah.
UNESCO World Heritage Site. You go winding through the foothills of the Himalayas.
Beautiful.
It's a journey through time and some incredible scenery all at once.
You can just imagine, those old steam engines chugging through the mountains.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you've got this push for modernization, right? High-speed rail, sustainability initiatives.
It's quite the balancing act.
Yeah.
They want to be carbon neutral by 2030. That's huge for such a big network.
It is. It really shows their commitment to progress and environmental responsibility at the same time. All right, so we've got this powerful, modernizing rail network. Now let's bring Himachal Pradesh into the picture.
Okay.
Imagine stunning Himalayan peaks, lush valleys, apple orchards,
Beautiful.
but not a lot of access to many of them.
Right, yeah. Himachal Pradesh is famous for its beauty and its unique culture, but it is held back
Yeah.
by its limited infrastructure, especially in the more remote areas.
So even though it has all this to offer, reaching those hidden gems,
Right.
it's a challenge.
It is, and that's where expanded rail connectivity could be.
Yeah.
Revolutionary. Think about it. Better access, huge surge in tourism. Himachal Pradesh already gets something like 18 million visitors annually.
Yeah.
But better rail connections, that number could skyrocket. Maybe an extra 6.5 million tourists,
Wow.
bringing in something like 20,000 crores in revenue within 5 years.
That's huge. So tourism would be a big winner if they improve those rail connections.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about bringing in more tourists, it's about making travel easier and cheaper
Right.
for everyone, both locals and visitors.
It's about opening up those incredible landscapes and cultural experiences
Yeah.
to more people. So we've got a powerful rail network, a region with tons of potential, and this obvious need for better connectivity. This is where the Bhanupali-Bilaspur-Leh line comes in, right?
Yes, exactly. This proposed 498-kilometer line, it would connect Bilaspur in Himachal Pradesh to Leh in Ladakh.
Yeah,
It's not just another railway line, this is engineering on another level.
it's amazing. I've seen some of the pictures of the proposed route, and it's mind-blowing. Tunneling through the Himalayas,
It is.
bridges over massive gorges, and at elevations over 5,000 meters.
Oh yeah.
That's higher than most mountain ranges in the world.
It's a real testament to just human ingenuity and determination.
Yeah.
But the challenges go way beyond the terrain. You've got earthquake-prone zones.
Right.
You have to minimize the environmental impact, work closely with communities along the way.
So it's a lot to manage.
Very complex, a
Yeah.
delicate balancing act.
Okay, so we have the engineering, the environmental concerns, the social considerations,
It's a lot.
a massive undertaking.
It is. But the potential rewards are just as massive.
Okay.
Imagine being able to get to Leh year-round.
Yeah.
It's a tourism hotspot in Ladakh, but it's cut off for months because of heavy snow.
Right. That would be a big change for Lee.
Oh,
And the whole region. Opening it up year-round, not just boosting tourism, but also trade and economic development.
absolutely. And that's just the start. This line could totally revolutionize logistics
Okay.
for everything, from apple exports to construction materials, creating whole new industries, revitalizing old ones.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here, but can we get into specifics? What kind of economic impact are we really talking about?
Oh, that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Remember how we were talking about tourism in Himachal Pradesh?
Yeah.
Brings in about 13,500 crores each year?
Yeah.
Well, with better rail access, that could jump to 20,000 crores within 5 years.
Huge.
And that's just tourism. You
Yeah.
mentioned apple exports before.
Mm-hmm.
So Himachal Pradesh, they produce a lot of India's apples. But a ton of those apples just rot before they ever get to market because the transportation is unreliable.
Wow.
With a dedicated freight line, they could cut that spoilage by 15, maybe even 20%.
That's got to be a huge help for the farmers.
Yeah, potentially saving them hundreds of crores of rupees every year.
That's a real impact on people's lives.
It is. It's not just about abstract numbers. It's about real people's lives getting better.
Absolutely. So it's good for consumers, good for farmers.
It is. And it could even open up new markets for Himachali apples.
Oh,
Imagine
Yeah.
exporting them to other parts of India, maybe even internationally,
wow.
boosting the economy,
Mhm.
putting Himachal Pradesh on the global map.
So apples benefit. What about other sectors?
Well, another one that could really change is cement production.
Okay.
Himachal Pradesh has a lot of limestone reserves, and cement production's a big part of the economy.
But getting that cement to other parts of the country must be difficult with all those mountains.
It's a big challenge.
Yeah.
Right now, they mostly rely on trucks, which really adds to the cost of transportation.
I bet.
So Himachali cement, it's less competitive
Makes sense.
compared to cement made in other places.
So the railway would make it much cheaper and easier
Yes.
to transport the cement,
Well,
make it more competitive.
Exactly. And that could lead to way more demand for Himachali cement, more production,
Mhm.
more jobs, more investment in that sector.
It's like this one railway line is a catalyst for all kinds of economic growth.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just these traditional industries,
What else?
like agriculture and manufacturing. It could change tourism too,
Okay.
especially high-end tourism. Imagine like luxury train services winding through the Himalayas.
Oh, wow.
Breathtaking views, super comfortable.
That would bring in a lot of money.
It would attract a more affluent kind of tourist,
Yeah.
bring in a lot of revenue, create new opportunities for the hospitality sector.
So diversifying the tourism industry even more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Attracting a wider range of visitors means a more resilient and sustainable tourism sector.
So apples, cement, tourism, all benefiting from this railway. It's amazing how this one project could impact so much in Himachal Pradesh.
It really shows you how connected infrastructure and economic development are.
Yeah.
But there's another side to all of this that we should talk about.
What's that?
It's strategic importance.
Right. You mentioned that it would connect to Leh in Ladakh,
Yes.
which borders China and Pakistan.
Exactly. Ladakh is strategically really important, and having reliable access is crucial for India's security. Right now, access by road is very limited,
Yeah.
especially in winter when the snow cuts off the region.
So the railway would mean year-round access.
Exactly. No matter the weather, that would mean they could easily move troops and supplies, strengthen India's presence there.
So it's a strategic asset.
It is, and that adds another level of complexity.
Right.
The benefits are enormous, but the stakes are high.
It really makes you think about this differently. It's more than just connecting two places.
It is.
It could reshape an entire region economically and strategically.
It really could. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we need to think about the potential downsides too.
Yeah, every big project has its challenges.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We talked about the environmental concerns,
Huh.
but what about the impact on the people who live there?
Yeah, that's important.
That's crucial. The economic benefits, they're obvious. But there are concerns about disruption and even displacement.
With a project this big, it has to impact the people living along the route.
It does. There's the potential for land acquisition, which could mean people losing their homes, their livelihoods.
Right. And even if they don't have to move, there could be changes in land use.
Exactly.
Property values, even the overall character of the region could change.
Absolutely. And then there's the environment. Building in that kind of mountain ecosystem
Yeah,
that requires really careful planning and execution.
it does.
Otherwise, you risk damaging the habitats and the biodiversity there.
It sounds like striking that balance is crucial.
It is. It's not about picking one or the other. It's about finding a way for both to exist,
Right,
to make sure progress doesn't mean sacrificing the environment or the people living there.
right. So the Bhanupali-Bilaspur-Leh line, it has these undeniable benefits, economically, strategically. But we can't forget about the potential downsides.
We can't.
And we need to address those responsibly.
Absolutely. And that's the real challenge here.
Yeah.
Making sure everyone benefits, that it respects the environment.
Right.
That it leaves a positive impact.
For generations to come.
Exactly.
It's a lot to ask.
It is a tall order, but it's a challenge worth taking on.
Yeah, it is. So we've talked about this potential economic boom, the logistical hurdles, the strategic importance, the potential social and environmental impacts.
A lot.
It's been fascinating so far. What else can you tell us about this ambitious project?
Well, I think we should shift our focus now to the human element. We've talked about the big picture.
Yeah.
But what about the people in Himachal Pradesh? How will this railway actually change their lives?
That's a great point. We've been talking about big numbers and big concepts, but ultimately it's about how this impacts real people.
You know, one of the most fascinating things about this project is how it could reshape the economy of Himachal Pradesh.
Yeah.
We talked about tourism, but what about specific industries?
Okay.
Let's start with apples.
Right. You mentioned that Himachal Pradesh produces a lot of apples,
They do.
but there are problems getting them to market.
Exactly.
How would the railway change that?
So right now, apple growers, they depend on trucks to get their produce out there. But those mountain roads, they can be dangerous.
Oh, yeah, especially during monsoon season.
Especially, you get landslides,
Right.
delays. A lot of the apples end up rotting before they can be sold.
That's terrible.
It's a huge loss for the farmers
Yeah.
and for the state's economy.
So the railway would offer a much more reliable way to transport everything, produce spoilage, get those apples to market faster.
Exactly. And it's not just about speed.
Okay.
The cost of transportation would go down significantly.
Right, because you're not using as many trucks.
Exactly. One train can carry what hundreds of trucks would carry.
Wow.
And trains, they're not as affected by the weather
Right.
or road closures. Lower costs for farmers means better profits, more stable income.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Fresher apples for consumers, potentially at lower prices, and the farmers get more for their hard work.
Exactly. And this efficiency, it could open up entirely new markets for Himachali apples.
Wow, like where?
Think about them being exported to other parts of India, maybe even other countries,
Okay.
boosting the economy, putting Himachal on the map globally for its apples.
So the apple industry, huge beneficiary of this railway. What about other industries?
Well, cement production is another one.
Cement.
It could be transformed. Himachal Pradesh has a lot of limestone, and the cement industry is already a big part of the economy.
But getting that cement to the rest of the country
Yeah.
must be really hard with all those mountains in the way.
It is a huge logistical challenge.
Yeah.
Right now, it's trucks mostly,
Right.
and that just adds so much to the cost.
I bet.
Makes Himachali cement more expensive,
Yeah.
less competitive
Makes sense.
than cement from other regions.
So the railway would change that.
It would.
Make it cheaper to move the cement around.
It would. Himachal's cement industry would be much more competitive.
And that means...
Increased demand, more production,
Yeah.
more jobs, more investment in the sector.
Wow, it's like this railway line is creating this ripple effect
Yeah.
across all these different industries.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just the traditional industries either,
What do you mean?
like agriculture and manufacturing.
Right.
It could also have a huge impact on tourism,
Okay.
especially high-end tourism. Imagine luxury train services
Oh, yeah.
winding through the Himalayas.
Beautiful.
The views, the comfort.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. It would appeal to a whole different kind of tourist.
Right, a more high-end tourist
Exactly.
who would spend more.
They would bring in a lot of revenue,
Yeah.
create tons of new jobs in the hospitality sector.
So it diversifies the tourism industry even more.
Yes,
Yeah.
it means attracting all kinds of visitors.
Mm-hmm.
And that means a more resilient and sustainable tourism sector overall.
Okay, so apples, cement, tourism, all these different areas benefiting from better rail connectivity. It's incredible how this one project could change so much in Himachal Pradesh.
It really shows you how interconnected everything is.
Yeah,
Infrastructure and economic development, they go hand in hand.
absolutely. But there's another side to all this we should talk about.
What's that?
Its strategic importance.
Oh, right.
You said it would connect to Leh in Ladakh,
Yes,
which borders China and Pakistan.
exactly. Ladakh is a very sensitive region, strategically,
Yeah.
and reliable access to it is really important for India's national security.
Okay.
Right now, access is mostly by road, and it's limited.
Especially in winter.
Yes, especially in winter. The snow cuts off the region completely.
So this railway would mean year-round access to Ladakh.
Exactly, no matter what the weather's doing.
Yeah.
Which means the army could move troops and supplies easily, strengthening India's presence there.
So it's not just about the economy then.
It's not.
It's a strategic asset for India.
It is.
Yeah.
And that adds another whole layer to the project.
Yeah, it does.
The benefits are huge, but the stakes are really high.
It really makes you think about this differently.
Yeah.
It's more than just connecting two places on a map.
It is.
It could reshape the entire region economically and strategically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we have to be realistic. Every project this big has its challenges.
Yeah, of course. We've touched on the environmental concerns.
We have.
But what about the impact on the people who live there? Right? That's important.
It's crucial. The economic benefits are clear, but there's a real risk of disruption.
Yeah.
Even displacement of people.
With a project this big, it's got to have an impact on the people who live along the route.
It will. There's the issue of land acquisition. People could lose their homes, their farms, their businesses.
And even if they don't have to move on the words, there could be all kinds of changes.
There could.
How land is used, property values, even the whole feel of the region could change.
Absolutely. And then there's the environment. Building anything in that delicate mountain ecosystem requires really careful planning and execution to make sure you don't damage the habitats and the biodiversity.
That balance between development and preservation is crucial.
Absolutely. It's not about choosing one over the other.
Right.
It's about finding a way for both to exist.
Yeah.
Making sure that progress doesn't come at the expense of the environment.
Or the people who live there.
Exactly.
So the Bhanupali-Bilaspur-Leh line, incredible benefits, economic benefits, strategic benefits.
Huge benefits.
But we have to be aware of the potential downsides and make sure we're addressing those responsibly.
Absolutely. That's the real test.
Yeah.
Making sure everyone benefits from this project, that it doesn't harm the environment, that it leaves a positive impact for future generations.
That's a lot to ask.
It is a tall order, but it's worth it.
I think it is. So we've talked about the possible economic boom, the logistical challenges, the strategic importance, the potential impacts, social and environmental.
A lot to consider.
It has been a fascinating discussion.
It has.
What other insights do you have about this project?
Well, I think it's important to shift our focus now to the human element of this story.
Okay.
We've talked about the big picture stuff.
Right, the big numbers.
But what about the everyday lives of the people of Himachal Pradesh?
Yeah.
How will this railway line actually change things for them?
That's a really good point. We have been talking big numbers, abstract concepts, but it comes down to how this affects real people.
It does. Think about like a farmer in a remote village who's having a hard time getting his produce to market.
Yeah.
The railway could be the difference between just scraping by and actually building a good business.
Wow.
Maybe even expanding, beyond his village.
So it's not just numbers on a spreadsheet.
No.
It's about real changes in people's lives.
It is. And it's not just the economics of it either.
Okay.
Think about the young people in Himachal Pradesh.
Yeah.
This could mean thousands of jobs.
Wow.
Not just in construction, but in all the industries that would grow up around it.
Right.
Tourism, logistics, hospitality.
A whole new world of possibilities.
Exactly. Opportunities they've never even had before.
And the social side of it, too.
Oh, yeah.
A student who could travel to a bigger city for school because the train makes it affordable and easy.
Exactly.
Or a family who can finally visit relatives they haven't seen in years.
Yeah.
Because travel isn't such a burden anymore.
It's about connecting with people.
Yeah.
Being able to move freely, experience new things.
Pursue those dreams that seemed impossible before.
Yeah. It really changes how you see this whole project.
It does. This railway cutting through the Himalayas, it's more than just transportation. It's a symbol of progress, of hope, of a better future.
It is. A brighter future for all the people of Himachal Pradesh.
It's a powerful thought. But we can't ignore the potential downsides either.
Right.
We talked about the environment, but what about the culture? Because there'd be cultural change.
Oh, definitely.
Disruption even.
Yeah. Increased connectivity can bring big cultural shifts.
Yeah.
We have to be aware of that. Think about how it could affect traditions and ways of life.
It's that balance again, isn't it?
It is.
Progress and preservation. Embrace the new while protecting what's unique.
That's where responsible development comes in.
Okay.
Talking to the communities, respecting their traditions, making sure they have a say in how their region changes.
So it's not just building a railway, it's building a future that works for everyone.
It is. And that takes a holistic view, looking at the economy, society, the environment, finding ways to reduce the risks and maximize the good.
It's a lot to juggle.
It's a complex challenge.
Yeah.
But it's one worth facing.
You've given us a lot to think about today. We've gone from the engineering of it all to this potential economic transformation.
Absolutely.
And even the human stories at the heart of it all.
We have. We've looked at the challenges, the opportunities, the risks, the rewards. In the end, the Bhanupali-Bilaspur-Leh line, it represents a choice.
Okay.
A choice about what kind of future we want.
And that choice isn't just for the people of Himachal Pradesh.
It's not.
It's a choice we all face.
Yeah.
How do we deal with progress and development in the 21st century?
Exactly. So for everyone listening, we want to leave you with this question.
Okay.
As you go about your lives, think about the infrastructure around you. The roads, the buildings, the systems that connect us all. How are those things shaping your life? And how can we make sure they're helping to create a more sustainable and fair future for everyone?
That's a great question, and one I hope our listeners will think about.
I hope so too.
Long after this deep dive is over. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions.